Let's go down under, and I'm delighted to say a very good morning / good evening to Darragh Joyce and Conor McKenna. Gentlemen, you're both very welcome. Conor, I might start with you. The wet and windy pictures from the Alliance Football League might have made it all the way to sunny Australia. Were you feeling any pangs of regret that you weren't out there?
No, I haven't really followed too much, to be honest. Just seen the results after the game, but sort of happy here in sunny Brisbane.
Yeah, it sounds nice.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been a change from Melbourne. Melbourne was a bit of a shock to the system. I thought I was going over there for sunshine and rainbows, but it was very similar to home during winter. You have your 4-degree days and a lot of rain, so Brisbane's a bit of a change. It's been 35, 36 degrees for the last 2 weeks, so it's been a bit too warm, but I'm not complaining.
Yeah, it looks like you've got a bit of a suntan there. Darragh, what's the crack with you? You were, I don't know if you were tempted or not, but certainly you were linked with perhaps coming back and picking up the hurl again and sticking around Kilkenny, but it turns out that it's always sunny in Australia.
Yeah, very much so. Tempted to go back home. I had plenty of chats with Derek Ling, and I was in doing a bit of training with him when I was at home. I went back to hurl for my local club and played with my brother and family and that kind of thing, so that was good fun. But when I came back down, I kind of realised how good Australia is and how sunny it is. So yeah, I was planning on moving home for Christmas, but settled back in pretty well, and then decided to give it another crack, and then lucky enough ended up here with Conor.
How does that come about when you're back in Ireland? Do you still have an agent in Australia kind of saying, here, listen, we have some interest from clubs, there's an opportunity here for you, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I was let go by St Kilda. And then obviously my contract is finished up, and then your manager is paid by your contract. But I had open and honest conversations with my manager, and he kind of convinced me when I got back down that you'll get another chance at it, and he was pretty pessimistic or optimistic about it. And yeah, that was kind of where it all began. When I came back down, he sat down and said, look, we'll sort out another club, there's interest in you. So he wasn't obviously getting paid during that period, but yeah, just a gentleman helped me out all along the way, and so just continued that on with him.
How do you end up choosing Brisbane, Conor? Like for yourself, I know you kind of timed coming home with Tyrone very, very well and won your All Ireland, so at least it gives you the freedom, I guess, without regret, to go back to Australia. But was Brisbane an easy choice? I guess you want to add an AFL title to that as well.
Yeah, I suppose, as you say, I came home and wanted to go home to play for Tyrone and my club, and was lucky enough to win the All-Ireland. And to be honest, it probably just made it easier to come back once I'd sort of ticked that off the bucket list. So, as you say, if they go on to win one this year, it'll be still hard to say it, but not as bad. So then just got in the communication with a few teams, and had 4 or 5 teams to pick from, and Brisbane were probably the one with the biggest chance of winning the Premiership, and that was sort of the goal. Tag Kennelly, he's the only player to win a All-Ireland and a Premiership, so that's my goal, is try to get a Premiership and get it in level with him.
I know I'm dealing in hypotheticals here, but if Tyrone hadn't won that All-Ireland a couple of years ago, would you have stayed on a bit longer here, or were you always tempted to go back?
Yeah, I was definitely always tempted and leaning towards going back, I'd say. As I say, it just definitely made it easier decision, but I still think probably this year I probably would have came back, I'd say, anyway.
You get that itch, I suppose. Like that seems to be something, and I know you would have. You mentioned Ty Kennelly there. He's someone I know the two of you have dealt with quite constantly. So are conversations with people like that who have been there and done it quite important in making your decision?
Yeah, there are ways, I suppose, going from a professional athlete and working 4 or 5 days a week and kicking a football around, then going back home, working 9 to 4, 9 to 5, and then going up to a wet windy night and training from 6 to 10. It's an easy decision, I suppose, and it definitely put in perspective on me. I probably appreciate more of a lifestyle what I have over here, and they just made it easy in that sense. But as you say, talking to like the lads, Dar and Tag and boys that have been through that, and I'm happy I went home, and definitely the right decision at the time, but just give me a clear mind that I definitely want to give it another crack for a few more years.
How easy is it for you to transition back to being a full-time athlete after being somebody who's, as you say, going to work and then going training? Are you straight back into it and feel like you were when you were a full-time athlete already, or is there a bit of a transition period?
It's a good, definitely a good transition, I suppose, getting back into, as I say, kicking the ball around for work. But yeah, it takes a while. It definitely takes a toll on the body, and I suppose the tiredness is a big one. You be in there from probably 7 o'clock in the morning till 3 or 4 in the evening, 3 days a week. So it definitely takes a toll on the body, and it just takes probably 2 weeks to get back in the swing of things. But to be honest, after that, I sort of felt back at home probably, and sort of just happy playing AFL again, to be honest.
And in terms of your own form at the moment, is it back to where it would have been before you came home to Tyrone?
Yeah, I probably picked it up quicker than I thought I would have, to be honest. My kicking now has been fine, and that was probably my main area. I suppose I hadn't kicked the ball in 2.5 years really, so to come back and sort of be kicking good enough again, I was happy with that. And then it was just probably learning the different game plan and different tactics of the team. So that's probably the main issue at the minute, just getting used to that. But the more game time I get, I'm probably a better learner playing the game than actually listen to the coach talk about it,
Fair enough. Darragh, what about you going home to pick up the hurl again? So people might be familiar, they might not, but you had a very successful underage career. Obviously your brother is a storied multiple All-Ireland winner, so it's in the genes and it's there somewhere. How easy did you find it going back to hurling, and was that maybe part of your decision to come back, is that you would have found it difficult to get back to the level that you feel you need to be at, or would that have been fairly straightforward? What's your instinct?
It wouldn't have been straightforward. I remember I landed on a Wednesday, trained Thursday night, and then played my first game on a Saturday. And I played in midfield, and I just got bypassed, didn't know where to run. I was kind of running footy patterns and kind of just got bypassed the whole game. But I kind of got slotted into the half forward line then, and I was under a few puckouts and kind of got a little bit of a flow into my game. So it was coming back to me, and just getting the touch in. Like it's like riding a bike. Like I did it for so long, so the touch is going to be there after a certain period of time. But it was just like striking on the run and different things like that. When you get under fatigue, that's what came against me. But really enjoyed it. Like going back to play for your club is always special. And yeah, like it's still on the radar. I'd love to do what Conor did, go home and win All Ireland. That's always been a dream as a kid. Like I didn't dream of playing AFL. I dreamed of lifting Lee McCarthy with Kilkenny. So yeah. It's still on my radar, hopefully at some stage.
I was going to say, I mean, apart from maybe the O'Halpines, who obviously were dual as kids, and famously Sean Oak played both hurling and football, there haven't been that many hurlers who've made it to the AFL, have there? I don't think so. Mark Keane is obviously a dual player, and he's just after signing up at Adelaide, so he can dabble in both. But I think I'm the first Kilkenny man anyway, for sure. How did you get scouted? Did you just go to a combine kind of thinking I might want to go here, or did someone come and say, okay, here, listen, you've got the profile?
Yeah, so I went to school in Good Counsel College in New Ross, Wexford, and they're like a big football stronghold. So played my football there, got scouted from there. I think it was Ty Kennelly's brother that actually saw me, and then just got brought to a Dublin combine, the same kind of process as Conor, and then came down to the Australian draft. I came down when I was pretty young, like I hadn't been to college yet, so I was kind of a bit homesick when I first went down, and there was like talk of a contract being put in front of me, and then I just like came home for a year. St Kilda at the time worked with me for a full year, and then went to uni, went to UCD, and then learned how to fend for myself, and then was grown up enough to make the trip down.
Darragh, I think I've heard you speaking before about Eddie Brennan and the conversation you might have had with him when he was the Kilkenny under-21 manager, maybe at training one night, and like maybe regrets from not regrets, but him looking back on his own career, and you know, if you get opportunities to go down under, you only really get it once, so you have to jump at it. Like were conversations like that with people like Eddie, I guess, pretty significant in your own decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that night it was in St. Kieran's College, and it was pissing down rain, and we were getting flogged in a running session. And I just had a chat with him after it on the way in, and we were drowned. But yeah, Eddie was brilliant. Like he just said that if he had the opportunity to travel when he was young, and an opportunity like this came up, he would have jumped at it. And I've seen a few of my friends now have moved down to Melbourne. Like there's a mass exodus of Ireland at the moment, and like a few friends just come down to work in Melbourne and whatnot, and they just said if they didn't go now, they'll never go because they'll get into a job at home or whatnot. So yeah, for me it was a no-brainer, the opportunity to be a professional athlete, and if I didn't make it after 2 years, I would have learned a whole heap and came home and hopefully become a better hurler from it. So it just so happens I'm still here 7 years later.
Conor, I don't think we've spoken to you about the end of your previous time in Australia since you came home. That all got a bit mad. You were kind of rounded on by the Australian media. Has that all disappeared? Is there any hangover with your relationship with the Australian media from all that stuff?
No, and it's probably a big difference from being in Brisbane compared to Melbourne. AFL in Melbourne is just like a Premiership in England. It's massive and sort of live and breathe it down there. Whereas up in Brisbane, it's a lot of NRL and the rugby union. So it's a lot different compared to Melbourne. There's no real cameras at the club that often. And if there is any media, it's maybe 1 or 2 cameras. Where Melbourne, you could have anyone sort of land at your door at the club on a daily basis. So it's been a nice change. It has been a whole pile of media so far, which is always a plus.
So they don't care, you don't care. It's all grand.
Yeah, no, it didn't really bother me. Like, I think at that time I had already my mind made up I was going to come home anyway.
Right.
I certainly knew that year I wasn't really enjoying it, and probably made the decision that I was going to give it 1 more year and come home, play for Tyrone and play for English, but didn't really make it through the year. And happy I did make that decision, but yeah, I don't think no matter what happened that year, to be honest, I was always going to come home.
It's great to have that flexibility to move in this scenario at the moment in your career and in your life. I suspect it's like, okay, I can do this for a period of time, because it gives you a certain freedom where this isn't the single thing that you've ever dreamed of doing. Now you've got kind of ticked off a lot of boxes. What sense of freedom does that give you about what's coming next?
Yeah, I think it does. I think probably talked myself into nearly hating Australia when I was here the first time, and just always wanted to get home to play for Tyrone and play for English, and do probably what I dreamt of doing. And now that you say I've ticked that off, it probably just gives me a time that I'm actually probably a lot more relaxed out here now, and know if it's I stay for 2 years, grand. If I stay for 3 years or 4 years, I've no real timeline on it, to be honest. I'm setting my girlfriend move over, so whatever sort of works for us is grand. And as you say, that freedom, just knowing I'm not rushing home for anything, or I'm not stuck here, sort of, it definitely gives you a bit more freedom and just makes you more happy, probably.
Is it a strange feeling, Conor, when you're those years where you were over in Australia and not playing for Tyrone, watching Tyrone play in the championship? Like, it sounds like a terrible thing to say, but is there an element of your being that almost doesn't want Tyrone to win when you're not there? Like, you want to be part of the All-Ireland winning team when it does come around. Luckily for you, you were. But I guess it's a strange feeling watching those games.
It is, yeah, completely. My first year Tyrone under 21s won All-Ireland. They beat Tipperary, and that was a big moment that sort of hit home that I most likely would have been involved in that team. And it sort of probably made me question why I was here, and sort of stubborn fella, and I sort of always wanted to play one AFL game, so I said no, I'll stay and put that aside. And then I went to the All-Ireland final in 2018, watched it in Croke Park, and Tyrone were up maybe 5-1 in the first 10 minutes, and I felt physically sick. I thought I was going to throw up. Like, it was a horrible feeling. You wanted to win, but you just felt like, oh my God, if they do win, I haven't been there. Like, is it worth it being over here? So probably got very lucky in that way, that for myself I didn't win it that year, because it would have been sick for me, but obviously great for them. And then, as you said, just got pretty lucky coming home and sort of slotted in, and everything just sort of fell into place.
It's mad, because I think of I used to play soccer with Conor Moyna, plays for Cavan, and of course I think he went travelling the year Cavan won the Ulster title for the first time in years. And you think about people like that. And Ronan O'Gara wrote a piece in the Irish Examiner a few weeks ago where he was talking about after he retired, watching Ireland playing in games against the All Blacks and almost hoping that they'd lose. So there is that. It's a strange feeling. You know, not to want your county or your country to win, but I guess that's sport.
It is, yeah. That's, I suppose, as Darragh says, it's a sacrifice you make when you come over here. You always have the possibility that a club or a county is going to win something at home, and I probably just lucky enough I didn't miss anything too great and got to be involved in All-Ireland, which was amazing. So probably got pretty lucky compared to most players, I'd say.
Darragh, what's your crack with a contract and all that? How long are you settled out for? Because the life of a professional sportsman is pretty brutal. What's your situation at the moment?
So I've just signed a year contract. So it all happened kind of pretty quick. I was waiting for an opportunity like this to come up. I had signed with Collingwood VFL side, so I was literally going to work for a year and play VFL in the hope of getting picked up before the season like just happened, or else mid-season if you're having a good year. So literally I got a phone call, I had a meeting on a Friday, had a phone call on a Monday, and then it was confirmed on a Tuesday. And I flew up to, and Conor collected me from the airport on a Sunday with a 1 year contract. So that's how it all happened. So I'm literally here now just to train hard and try and force my way into the best 22 come round one.
How sickening is the pre-season?
Pre-seasons are tough, especially up here where it's so humid. I was doing a lot of stuff myself, so I only started like the last month. So I've actually probably timed it well. They're coming into playing games now. So last Friday we played 20 minutes of a match. between ourselves. This Friday we'll add on a bit more to that, but Conor was probably there for a bit of the harder running sessions before Christmas.
You're shaking your head there, Conor.
I had to do my own running over Christmas to try and keep fit. So, getting back into football boots full time kind of blew me up there the last couple of weeks. But the body's feeling good. But yeah, I've timed it pretty well coming into games now. So it's this is the best time of the year.
You're, I think, 26, Darragh, so there's still plenty of time for you to come home and have a swan song that involves Liam McCarthy.
Yeah, not 26 yet, just a couple of months' time. So, plenty of time yet. But this year, just focused for Brisbane anyway. So, see how it goes.
Would you like to see either of you, like Conor? I guess I don't want to start the professionalism and amateur debate in GAA just yet, but it's kind of been rumbling all the time, and I guess it's getting more professional in terms of the commitment of players and in terms of the finances pumped into the game as well. Is that something you'd like to see down the tracks?
It's a hard one. Like I'd say, suppose being back and playing as a county player for 2 years, it gave me an unbelievable appreciation of what them players do. And when I look at players having 10-year county careers, like, I don't understand how it's possible. It's just such a commitment, and we probably weren't even to that level because of COVID for a year and a half. So we were probably a bit less than normal. But yeah, it's an interesting one because the boys give so much, and probably in a lot of cases gets a little back in terms of silverware and winning stuff. I suppose only one team can really win the Sam Maguire, so the other two's 32, so they don't get much. But I don't know how it's fixed, but it's too much, I think, for an amateur player to balance a life with football. It sort of takes over your whole life, and then the split season's good too. But when we won the Ireland, we didn't really have an off season for 2 years because your off season or your Tyrone finishes in the week after we won the Ireland. We had a match the week after, so it never stops. It's just sort of a continuous circle of football, and I'm a type of person, I sort of like to get away from it. I don't like football that much. I like to play it, but I don't like to be swarmed by it.
Yeah, I think that's increasingly what a lot of people are making the decisions, and we're seeing people take a year out in their mid-20s to go travelling and come back, and you're seeing it with several of the Dubs, but it's happening in every county as well. Listen, lads, we wish you the very best of luck this season. Congratulations on the new contract, Darragh and Conor. If you are the next man on that list of people who have won both of those medals, that'll be a fairly sensational end to this season for you. So thanks a million, lads.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
And Conor McKenna there in sunny Brisbane.